That was Werner Vogel's keynote, the second big AWS reInvent keynote. A lot of news.
Yeah.
Not as splashy as yesterday. There wasn't a truck.
Right.
But what do we have cooking? What's big?
Well, I thought one of the big themes that they talked about was new tools for developers to make it easier to write applications on Amazon's cloud and manage those applications that they have built there, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, quick rundown. We've got a managed version of Chef running on AWS, a build and test server that's automatically configured and managed. There's also a tool for grouping together different EC2 instances and profiles so you have an easier time managing that. All of this adds up to, I mean, at least in my opinion, a play by Amazon to just keep trying to make it easier to build apps on AWS so that more people build apps on AWS. The more that happens, the more money they make, and everybody wins.
Yep. It was interesting. They talked a lot about security today. They called out DDoS specifically.
DDoS attacks have been huge this year. Absolutely huge.
And so they announced something called Shield, which is available for everyone. You don't need to sign up for it or anything, but it's going to allow them to better find out when a DDoS attack is potentially happening. And then you can also pay for a higher level service, Shield Advantage, I think?
Shield Advanced.
Shield Advanced, which will actually allow you to get some help from Amazon diagnosing DDoS attacks and actually helping to prevent them.
The other important thing about the advanced service is, one, you get a 24/7 hotline, which is great. The other thing is that they're also offering cost controls, which is really huge. If people use Amazon's load balancer, Amazon's DNS, all of a sudden, if they get hit by something massive, they're not going to see as much of a major bill spike as they might otherwise. And that's going to help people with weathering these huge attacks that we've seen this year. Really big application level attacks that hurt. They hurt businesses and they're hard to deal with. And so by making it a little bit easier to weather, that's going to be helpful.
One of the other things I thought was really interesting that Werner talked about was this spectrum of compute. So you think about computing in the cloud being based off of virtual machines traditionally, but now we're seeing different types of compute models in the cloud. Containers is another one, and then Lambda, these event-driven serverless computing platforms.
Big air quotes there.
Right, exactly.
Big air quotes there.
Right. And so there's this idea that depending on what type of workload you have running in the cloud, you have different options. Is it going to run in a VM? Is it going to run in a container? Is it going to run in these Lambda functions? And they made some advancements to their Lambda platform, being able to link different Lambda functions together to be able to more easily manage these things.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting that Amazon is really trying to embrace these new applications that are being deployed to the cloud, and like we started off with this conversation, making them easier to manage.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's going to be interesting to see what the shape of a modern application looks like, because in addition to being able to compose a bunch of different Lambda functions together into what's essentially a state machine, you also have the ability to now run Lambda at the edge. So you can actually have Lambda functions that sit in Amazon CloudFront endpoints, watch the HTTP traffic coming into an application, and act on it immediately. That means for stuff like doing login to a website, you don't have to round trip all the way to a data center, to a big Amazon region. You can just say, have a Lambda function sitting at CloudFront that says, oh, hey, you're logged in, you're authenticated, and hop right back to the user. That reduces latency. Really interesting stuff. We also saw C# on Lambda.
And that got a big applause from the crowd.
Big applause from the crowd. I mean, there are a lot of .NET developers out there who are going to be really happy to see this. I can tell you, one group of people who are not going to be happy to see this, Microsoft. Because that's one of those things where Azure functions, you could write in C#. Now, not as much of a differentiator, and so people are interested in going to Lambda and being able to take their C# skills into this sort of event-driven world. They can do that.
Well, a lot of news at the keynotes today, and if you want to read more about it, check out Network World, IDG News Service, and the whole family of IDG sites.
Awesome.